What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. J.J. McCarthy was just officially ruled out for the entire 2024 season. This is following the reports yesterday that he was going to undergo meniscus surgery on his right knee. And the question was it going to be a 4 to 8 week recovery, or was it going to be the full 4 to 6 months? And then that obviously led him to be ruled out for the entire 2024 NFL season. Now, I'll give you guys my thoughts on the injury and also talk about signing some possible quarterbacks on the back half of today's show. But before we dive into that, if everybody could go down in the comments section and type those 9s for JJ, as it's going to be a long battle for him recovering from this torn meniscus. So if you guys want to show him our support here, show him that Vikings fans have his back, type those 9s down below in the comments section. Now, I do want to talk about also what Kevin O'Connell said about the injury. He said, the Vikings are disappointed, but they strongly believe he will come back better and have a long, successful NFL career. Kevin O'Connell also said he views him as the franchise quarterback here in Minnesota. So, clearly what JJ did in his first preseason game did not go unnoticed by members of the Vikings organization and specifically Kevin O'Connell. Now, I watched a ton of film breakdowns from that game on YouTube. Chase Daniel did a good one. If you guys have ever watched the QB School, really breaking down each individual play he had against the Las Vegas Raiders. And a lot of these guys were saying what JJ showed in week 1 versus Las Vegas, they didn't necessarily see that on tape when he was at Michigan. And that was the point I was trying to make here on the channel for the past couple of months, was just because Michigan didn't ask him to push the ball downfield, didn't ask him to really put the offense on his back, does not mean he could not do so. But we saw it against the Raiders. After that first interception, he bounced back, finished the game 10 of 14, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, a couple blown coverages by the Las Vegas Raiders, 3rd and 4th stringers, but he was able to take advantage. And, the number one takeaway I had from his preseason games was the zip he puts on the football. We saw it during the training camp clips. We saw it during OTAs that he puts so much velocity, specifically throwing over the middle of the field. And we saw that specifically to that one 1st and 10 throw. He had the Nick Muse, the tight end, was running a crossing route, and JJ put it right on his dome. It looked like it was going 110 miles per hour when it left his hand. And he also just showed great pocket awareness. Also, the throw he had to Tristan Jackson, it was on play action. He had a linebacker blitzing right in his face, and he stayed in there, stood strong in the pocket, and then delivered a dart to Tristan Jackson on that play. But, to conclude my thoughts on JJ, then we'll talk about some free agent targets here in a second that the Vikes could bring in, even though I do think the Vikings are probably going to just roll out there with Nick Mullins or Jaren Hall if something were to happen to Sam Darnold. But to conclude my thoughts, JJ has lived up to everything we thought he was going to be coming out of college. Just in every interview, he is very mature, he's professional, he carries himself the right way, and he carries himself like you would want a franchise quarterback to do so. And, even he showed me more than I thought in that first preseason game versus Las Vegas. I was already very high on him. I had him ranked as my 2nd best quarterback in this year's class. And, even with my high expectations, he still blew me away a little bit against the Raiders. But JJ's going to bounce back better than ever. And, ideally this season, we would have hoped that JJ wouldn't have needed to play either way. Like I said, an ideal Viking season goes, Sam Darnold starts, he ends up popping, and then he leads the Vikings maybe to a wild card weekend in the playoffs, and then next year JJ steps in. But the biggest downside of this is that instead of JJ really diving into the playbook, and he'll still be able to do so and really try to maybe put more weight on his frame or whatever he wants to do to get him better, it's just going to be rehab for him. And, he's going to fully be diving into this playbook. From everything I've heard about him and heard him talk, this is just going to be another challenge that he is going to face head on. So I'm excited to see Sam Darnold play. And actually, the Vikings do have joint practices with the Cleveland Browns later today. And also, we will actually be going live in about 30 minutes or so here, breaking down the latest around your Minnesota Vikings. So a lot coming up, so make sure you guys do stay tuned. But again, show J.J. McCarthy some love. Type those 9s down below. Now, I do want to talk about some free agent quarterbacks that the Vikes could bring in. Obviously, I'm assuming they're going to, run with Sam Darnold QB1. No duh. He will probably start all 17 games, barring if he does receive an injury. But even if Darnold does get hurt, I'm assuming the Vikings are just going to roll out there with Nick Mullins or Jaron Hall. I don't know if they would make a play on the market. Now, this could be a situation where, let's just say Sam Darnold goes 5-2. He's looking great. And then let's just say something happens to him where he can't play. Then maybe they go try to hit the trade market or bring in a free agent quarterback. But here are the best ones still out there. Ryan Tannehill, he is still the top free agent. Then there's a significant drop-off after that. And, my argument to bringing in Tannehill would just be if something were to happen to Sam Darnold, and let's just say his football team starts off the season pretty hot, you would much rather have him in there rather than Nick Mullins. We know who Nick Mullins is. It's going to be the typical 250, 300-yard game where he's throwing 3 interceptions and he's also throwing 3 touchdowns. Makes for entertaining football. Kind of has some Jameis Winston in him, but again, is that the best guy you want to roll out there for the remainder of the season? Probably not. But you also got guys like Brian Hoyer, Blaine Gabbert, Trevor Siemian, A.J. McCarron also on that list. So, again, there's not a ton of good options out there remaining. But Tannehill's still out there. And he's, like I said, I would assume he's probably just waiting an opportunity, and maybe this is it. Where a quarterback does get injured. But again, is he going to come in and want to be the backup to Sam Darnold the whole year? I don't necessarily think so. But, hey, this is a guy who's got an 81-70 record overall, has thrown for over 34,000 yards in his career, 216 touchdowns, 35 years old, so he's got the experience. And listen, this is a guy who's been to an AFC championship game with a strong run game led by Derrick Henry. Obviously, had Mike Vrabel holding down the defensive side of the football there in Tennessee, but he wouldn't be a bad option for the Minnesota Vikings. But, I think their plan, roll out Sam Darnold, see what he can, obviously do with this roster. But I really feel bad for the other 52 players on this Vikings team. Like, I'm sure they're going to rally around Sam Darnold, try to get the most out of him, and really, hopefully try to make a playoff appearance this upcoming year. But you got to be thinking about a guy like Justin Jefferson. I mean, he was mic'd up in the third quarter when J.J. threw his 2 touchdowns, and you could see the excitement on his face where he's like, that could be my guy. That could be our franchise quarterback, and we could really have J.J. the J.J. for the next 10 seasons. Obviously, that is still the plan, but this is just a minor setback, hopefully setting up a major comeback for J.J. McCarthy. But I feel bad for guys like Derails, Aaron Jones, Jordan Addison, like all these weapons. Like, I'm assuming they were probably seeing McCarthy in practice and seeing that he's a little better than Darnold right now, because I saw that in the first preseason game and everything I've seen from practice. So, Darnold, he's going to have to show up and show out for this team, or else it's going to be a very long year for the Vikings. And also, I was just still looking at the Vikings opening schedule here early on today. It is absolutely brutal. They open in New York against the Giants, which is just going to be a tough game no matter what you think of, the Giants heading into this year. But then you got the Niners, Texans, Packers, Jets, Lions, Rams, Colts, Jags. Like, the Titans, even on the road in Tennessee, is a tough game. And then you're in Chicago. You got the Cardinals, Falcons, the Bears again, the Seahawks, Packers, Lions. Like, there is no easy game on this schedule. Could be a very long year for our Minnesota Vikings, but hey, we're still going to hold it down here on the channel. So make sure you guys are subscribed. We'll be going live in about 30 minutes or so. So if you guys want to tune in for that, highly suggest you guys do so. But disappointing day for the Minnesota Vikings. But we'll see you guys next time. As always, let's go Vikes.